Uh-oh. Uh-oh. We got problems here. I don't know what's going on here. Hey, Jill. It's doing something I've never seen it do before. It's just you in the room. All right. Well, it's Mark coming to you from Baker's Green Acres in lovely Marion, Michigan. What a day. We had 80-degree weather today. And from what I've been hearing, we're supposed to have really nice weather. Day 81, Thursday 81, Friday 78, Saturday 80, Sunday 78, and Monday we're going to get rain and 69, and then it drops down into the 60s. So that's really where it belongs. So this is just sort of like a little spoonful of gravy for us here before it starts getting cold. Let's see. I know what I want to talk about tonight, but before I go there, I'd kind of like to tell you about kind of a day in the life. The day in the life, and this is what we do here on Baker's Green Acres. So today was my day to milk with Frank. I know I tell you that every Tuesday because every Tuesday is my day to milk. And the way we do it is one guy's the primary and one guy's the secondary, right? So I'm the secondary. So I'm the guy that puts the milker together. While the primary is out if he needs to go get the cows and chase them up to the barn. And about half the time we do. Other than that, they're usually waiting for us when we come up. It doesn't seem to be any rhyme or reason to it. So that's what we did today. Only today was a little bit different because I have been under the weather for a couple of days. Yeah, Jill, I caught it from her. She came down with it. It was some sort of respiratory. So it was in her lungs and really giving her a hard time. And I was starting to get a little concerned about it because it went on for a week, 10 days. Had her take some Ivermectin and that didn't touch it. So it wasn't that. But it finally subsided, but then it came out of her and went into me. And you might hear my voice is a little bit lower, little Tom Selleck. And when I get up in the morning, it's not there. And usually what has been happening, it's a little strange. I don't recall ever having this happen to me, but I'm not sleeping good. That's the one thing. So I'll get in bed and all of a sudden it feels like I'm wheezing really bad and then itchy throat. So I start coughing and, and then I'll get up and try to get tired and lay back down and then I'll cough for a while. And so I haven't been sleeping very good. Last night saw 3 o'clock in the morning. Can you imagine that? 3 o'clock in the morning. And then I finally did get to sleep and I woke up this morning and it was 9:20. Jill let me sleep, didn't bother me, kept the kids quiet. So our milking today was a little late, but that's kind of nice because, if you're sick, you're sick. But we got the milking done. And usually by the time I'm milking, I have already swum in the pool. So I do my cold plunge. In the summertime, it's not exactly a cold plunge because the pool is usually, 60 degrees or so. So it's not like getting in ice water, but I get in anyway. And I go all the way in, and then usually I'll sit with the water right to here for a long time. And I can take it forever. It's not like being in ice water where 3 minutes and it's like, oh, I got to get out of here. And what it seems to do is pull a lot of the heat out of me. And then I get up, finish a cup of coffee, get dressed, and I'm gone. And I'm usually in pretty good shape. All right, Belva's with us. Welcome. And usually from there, it's like I have intense thought processes in the morning. I'll think about what we're going to do for the day, needs to be done. Sort of on my milking days, I wait until after I'm in the midst of milking to decide what we'll do for the day. So, like Jim doesn't milk on Tuesdays, so he goes out and takes care of the chicken tractors. And then he's back in, and maybe he'll start on school, or maybe what do you want me to do? And so today, I knew what was going to happen. I knew I'd have a spurt of energy in the morning, and then right about lunchtime, it's like I'm wearing lead shoes. Yeah, and eat lunch, and then I really am wearing lead shoes, but I don't want to take a nap because that'll destroy my sleep for the next day. So changed my uh, my my operation. And after I got done with milking and putting the milk away and cleaning up and everything, the boys were helping me on my carpentry project, building out the milk house. And I said, "Hey, I'm gonna go into town. I'm gonna go to the secondhand store and see if I can find a sink and a counter and a good door, and let's see what happens." But I knew that if I started working with them, I would just start jobbing it, and then I'd be dead meat after lunch. So I just wanted to change things up, and so I did. And I didn't find what I was looking for. I am looking for a deep 2-compartment sink, a real deep one, stainless steel, preferably if I find it. But I didn't find it. But I did find another sink for store. Got a good deal on it. Has a faucet on it and everything. And I also found another little gem. It's called a paraffin heater, and if you look it up, it's really a kerosene heater, but when they make them in England, they call it paraffin when they heat with these little heaters. And I don't know the year that this thing was built, but it was sitting there in the second store. The lady didn't know anything about it. She said, "I don't know, maybe it's propane," but it's not. It's oil. And it had a pretty reasonable price tag on it, and it was real cool looking, old fashioned. So I nailed it. And I'm part of a group on Facebook. You can follow anything you want on Facebook. Like I'm part of a Ford 390. The 390 is the engine that's in my truck, and guys do all kinds of things with 390s. And if you want to find out some obscure thing about a Ford 390, you can ask the question, and somebody will know. It's really neat. And anyway, I'm kind of into oil heaters, these standing kerosene heaters, because we used them in Japan. You use them in your homes, like they don't have central heating in Japan, and it gets pretty darn cold there too. So you just get used to living in a cold house. They don't heat their houses very much. So I got used to that, and anyway, but it malfunctioned shortly after I got home, and it was a Japanese one. I never did find parts for it here in the United States, America, and so it went by the wayside. But I found this site or this page on Facebook, and I joined. I mean, it's not one of those pages where they have to check you out for a while. They just let you right in. Who wants to, follow paraffin heaters? And sure enough, I found this one, and then I brought it home, Did a little research on it, which wasn't too hard, which is really neat about having all of this energy right here. It's really cool. Sometimes it's too much, but I researched it, found out what I could put in it, what I couldn't put in it, and so I loaded it. I trimmed it, is what they call it, and then I turned the wick up, opened the top up, lit it, and it took off just like a champ. Audubon, hey, welcome back. I haven't seen you. Yeah, hard work. What hard work? So anyway, that was what I did, and I didn't wind up getting home until 3. And I did that intentionally. I just needed kind of a break in my routine. And then I had my guy showing up here, Dave Armstead, that does our cattle. He is the artificial inseminator. And so he needed to preg check 2 and inseminate 1. And things kind of shifted a little bit because the first one he checked that I wanted him to inseminate, he said, no go. You know, it's not going to work. She's not going to work. You know, she's got some malformities, and she had a calf, but then the calf kind of got absorbed back into her body. So she's not going to make it. She's a great big cow, great big Guernsey. And so she's going to be going in the freezer. So we gave her a chance. You know, we tried to try it again, but he said it's kind of a waste of time. So this guy, Dave Armstead, I've been working with him now for probably, it's close to a year, and he's very good. Has a business here in town, and that's all he does is artificially inseminate and preg check. And there's probably other things that he does too when it comes to dairy cows. And so we pregged the other ones. One of them was pregnant, the new heifer. Belle is her name, and she'll be having her calf, I don't know, let's see, about 6 months from now. And the other one, Ruby, was not. And Ruby's been typically a very easy, you know, easy to get pregnant, but this time she didn't do it. So he started her process, and the other one, Dawn, she's going to go by the wayside. So I talked with him for a while, and right about then, about 4 o'clock, Aaron showed up. Aaron comes, gets milk. Aaron Esch, the barn geek. And we always have things to talk about. So we pulled up some chairs in the milk house and chewed the fat for a little while. And we've got some things in common. He's getting into other businesses. And I said, you know, I think now is the time to get into other business. I just really feel it. So I will tell you something else that happened too. Just for the fun of it, I thought I would stop in Home Depot and check on the prices of new 2-compartment sinks, like an industrial stainless steel sink. They didn't have any. So, but I did run into a guy there that I know, another military member that I've known now for 20 years. He was Navy. Don't hold it against him, and so we talked for a little bit, and I said, you know what? I've got a great idea. And now it's not just a brand new idea. It's an idea that I've had for a couple months now, and it's not going away. And this idea, so I shared it with him. I told him what it was, and I'll tell you guys, I kind of have this vision of an airfield, put it right in the middle of my hayfield next door, and I can squeak out about 1,000 feet of runway, which isn't a lot. It's not a lot. I think maybe I can get like 1,200 feet. So it's not a whole lot. So it would be limited to very light airplanes. And that's kind of what I want. No, I don't want a lot of traffic coming in and out. I basically would be setting up a grass strip, you know, with cones on either side so you can see it from the air, and then a series of what's called T hangers, so that a guy that has like a Taylorcraft or a J3 Cub, or those are light fabric covered airplanes, could land and then could rent the T hanger space. Because even though those airplanes are old, you don't want to leave out in the sun. You want to get them in if you can. And T hanger space goes rents for between $150 and $500, depending on how much, if you air condition it, and who knows. But I wouldn't do any of that. I want to keep it very simple. So lights, not even sure if we're going to have a concrete floor. I kind of like the idea of just a gravel floor that's rolled. You wet it and roll it. I kind of like that idea. It's simple, and we could really keep the cost down. I mean, we could always pour concrete over it later. Okay, I'll read that in a minute, Tim. But you build T hangers in units, and they will have, like, it could be a unit of 5, and a T hanger is a hanger that you can push an airplane into tail first, and then on the other side of the building someone else could push one in, and there is a wall separating each hanger, and then they have doors that are about 18 feet, and you can slide them open. And so the first hangers that I thought I would build would be strictly for smaller airplanes. And, I really have to take into consideration, I have neighbors too, and bigger airplanes out, and really small, like Cubs and Taylorcrafts and Champs and things like that. They're not very loud, and they're, it's and so I have this idea, and I almost can't shake it, because we have over here, we have our little cafe and store. And if you know anything about private pilots that fly small airplanes, they just want to get in it, polish the windshield, get in it, look at, fly, go someplace, stop, and get a cup of coffee, and then do the same thing in reverse, go home, and then go back home. That's what they do. It's a hobby. I'm not saying that you don't have small airplanes like that are working airplanes, but generally around here they're not working airplanes. A working airplane would be like a bush plane that would take hunters in to the wilds of Alaska. Not You don't see that around here so much. Working airplanes around here are flying like pipelines, and they just fly them, make sure they're not seeing fuel spurting out or a big wet spot or anything like that. I'm not into crop dusting. It's not my thing, so that wouldn't be something that I would do. And then I put in a fuel tank, with aviation gasoline, and have a couple tie down spots, and then our campground, we would have several of the cabins built, and so a guy could fly here from a couple hundred miles away, tie his airplane down, stay overnight, have a cookout, sit out and enjoy the sunset, because it's really beautiful here on this farm. It really is beautiful. And then get in his plane and go home, and it wouldn't cost him an arm and a leg. And there's no landing fees, there's no control tower or anything like that. There's no it's uncontrolled space, so not subject to much regulation at all, if any. Nobody cares. It's sort of like if you want to set up a drag strip on your farm, you could do it, but even that would probably irritate your neighbors. So I will probably, my neighbor that would be the closest to it, they're real nice people. I would go over there and say, I'm thinking about doing this. Do you have any problem with it? And he's also he works for a materials company, so he's a pretty experienced excavator, so he could counsel me on how I should proceed too. So I don't know. I got this idea, and it seems like it would marry up with the farm really neat. And then I've told you guys that when I get old, 60 years from now, I still want to be doing stuff, and I would like to be the guy that mows the lawn. And you have to mow the lawn over there. You have to mow the runway because it'd be grass. And then you could have really neat things. You could put solar lights out there to mark the runway for nighttime. And I don't know, you could just do a lot of cool things like that. And then one of my sons is interested in general aviation. And that, if you don't know, that's where I started. I went to an aircraft school after high school and learned how to work on airplanes. And that's where I started. And I went from general aviation, which is small airplanes. And then I thought, oh, I want to keep progressing, you know? And so then I went into manufacturing, went to work for Lockheed Airplane Company, making the big bucks. And then from there, I went into military aviation. And each time, it wasn't exactly what I thought it was going to be. Military aviation was cool. Manufacturing was cool too. But it was nothing like general aviation looking back. But when you start there, you're thinking, oh, there's got to be something better, SRs and F-15s, where, a little small puddle jumper it fits my farm. Like there could be cattle grazing on either side and a little J3 Cub taking off. It's freedom. You just break free of the ground. And, you can go up and look around and, there's no restrictions. You can just kind of do what you want, cruise around, eat while you're flying, drink a cold Coke while you're flying, guys, there's just a lot of freedom in it. So anyway, that's the idea that I've had. And I shared that idea with this friend of mine at Home Depot. And he says, oh, well, you want to talk to Mitch. And I said, is that guy that you introduced me to in years? Yeah. And he tells me where he is. And he says, he would think that's the coolest thing. So he works at the Cadillac Airport. He's got a hangar there, and he does maintenance on small airplanes. And he's been in it since 1979. I started in 80, right? So he's been in it for a lot of years. And he knows everything there is to know about general aviation. So I drove over to his hangar. I thought, now is the time. I drove over, and he was out talking with another guy. And it's weird. They were the same age as me. And it's like when I first see him, they're old guys. And then I look in my rearview mirror, and it's like, hey, you're an old guy now too. I mean, sort of. And so I went up, started talking with him. We just had a good time. We had a real nice time talking. I told them what I wanted to do, and they both got little grins on their faces, really gave me a lot of information about how to proceed, what to look out for, and what you can do, and all that. Yeah, we're doing good. And so on my ride home, the wheels were turning, but I am healing at the same time. I got to give myself a little time to catch up. So I'm feeling better now. I mean, the only thing that I'm lacking is wind. I'm just can't breathe too deep. And so I think that lack of oxygen is kind of slowing me down. Right. So that's my thing I've been thinking about. And you know what? Every time I get a great idea, I will say, okay, who do I want to talk to about this? And you think of a person and you think, well, what will they say? And am I going to get anything out of that conversation? And so I had my targeted people. There's a guy that I know that's an engineer out of Dow Chemical, and he's not flying now, but he did for 25 years. I think I don't think he can get a medical anymore. And so I called him out of the blue, called him, "Hey, Bob, this is what I'm thinking about doing." And so we talked for about 45 minutes about it. And he got kind of psyched, and I got kind of psyched. And so that was my first. And then I talked to John Spears, Spears Automotive in Cadillac. And he's in the automotive business, but I think John would be in any business that he saw, a gain in. He's just that kind of guy. And I think he started in automotive when he was young. He did. He's still young. He's only like 35. But he is really killing it in the auto business. Him and his wife, they're doing really, really good. So I talked to him about it, and he's like, "Yeah, I've always wanted to get an airplane." And so then I start sending him pictures of because I'm on this other site of small airplanes for sale. And if you ever had a bunch of money that you wanted to invest in something that you could get your money back out, an airplane is the way to go. But I'm not talking about like a twin engine DC-3. No, that takes a lot more doing. But a one-man show, you can easily do a J3 Cub, or like I said, a Taylorcraft or something like that. And it may have been owned by 25 other guys, and they all get their money out of it. You invest the money in, you use it, you make it better than it was when you got it. And then when you want to try a different airplane, you sell it or trade it. That's just the way that business works. So I talked to John about it, and he was kind of pretty psyched about it. And then talking with this guy, Mitch, I came home and it was like, whoa, because he told me that any area that we designate airdrome becomes tax exempt. So we can still farm it, but if it is airdrome, if we're using it for taxiways and things like that, which the taxiways would be nothing but, like a 2-track on a hayfield, and we'd have a little less hay on that field, but we would still cut hay off of it, and I would still fence it, and I would still graze cattle on it, because I just think that would be the coolest thing, to be flying in to a dirt strip that's nicely maintained and safe and long, and then seeing cattle on either side. I just think that would be the coolest thing, because that kind of aviation really is a heartfelt aviation. If your job in aviation and your goal is to haul heavy stuff long distances, and then load it on the other side and haul it back, and then keep your maintenance down and pay as little insurance as you can, that's a different story. This is more the nostalgic, recreational flying is what it is. And it's funny, the mechanics like me, I do not have desire at this point to go flying. I really don't. And I don't know why that is. I like it to a point, but I've done enough of it, and I am more interested in, seeing the picture of a nice, well-maintained aircraft sitting tied down and 100% serviceable sitting, and a good paint job on it. I like that. That's the part of it I like. And also talking with the pilots about, how the airplane performs and how it's maintained and all that stuff. And I tell you the truth, I've been involved in a lot of plane crashes. I hate them, but it is part of my life. It is part of my memory bank. And some of them were really bad. And yeah, but it's just part of it. And like with farming, there's things that happen that you hope don't happen, but they do. And you just have to, that's part of it. So anyway, that was the idea, and I just thought I'd share it with you guys, and let's see what happens. Let's just see what happens. I mean, wouldn't it be some Brian Jacobs? You get an airplane. You're smart enough to fly an airplane. We'll take care of it. You fly up here, right? Get milk, and then fly home and distribute the milk. That would be a working airplane. Yeah, that would do it. You wouldn't have to worry about running from the cops either in your little rum runner there. All right. So that's that. It was just it was what I did today. I expended a ton of mental energy because I didn't have the physical energy to expend. I really want to get back on top of things. I'm hoping tomorrow I will because I am making really good gains on the milk house. My cows are doing really well. We do not have enough people buying our milk, and so we are working on that now. We're working on that. I The other day I was thinking I'm putting too much milk into cheese and butter. I want to be selling this milk because I need those dollars to build my airport. So I got to thinking about it and shared my ideas with Jill, and she didn't think those were ideas were as good as her ideas. So we're going to go with her ideas. So, hey, this is what we're going to do. Brian, you might even be interested in this. We're going to offer, and this ties in with the conversation tonight. It does. We're going to offer our milk customers $1 off for every referral that they give us that results in a herd share contract. Good for 1 year. Okay, so let's say that you refer 10 people to us, they all pick up a herd share, you would get your milk for free. For free. So it's an incentive for people. Wow. It's an incentive for people to
There you go.
Okay.
You're good to go.
My little IT person fixed it for me. Uh-oh. I don't think I want that. Okay. All right. I'll just go with it like this. Standby technical difficulties. Okay. So where was I? All right. So that was my idea process. And anyway, it ties in with what I want to talk about. A very powerful concept that I have not broached the subject because I didn't think we were ready as a group. I really didn't. And I've had kind of a learning curve on this. Before I get to it, though, I want to tell you that our next class that's coming up is the Anyone Can Farm Homestead Hog Harvest that's coming up November 1st. And I got 6 people signed up already, so there's slots for 6 more. And that's where we take live hogs. We start Friday afternoon, and we slaughter them, scald, scrape, split in half. Next day, we pick it up, breaking down the carcasses into primals, and then we break the primal cuts down into subprimals. We start working on sausage making and bacon making and packaging and how to make chops and how to make this and that and all kinds of stuff. It's a really fun class. This is going to be our 14th year, right? And it's one of the things that I look forward to every year. And every year the property is changed. You know, it's better than it was the year before. So this year is going to be the best we've ever done. We have more facilities. We're going to be working under the roof that we built this summer. So that'll be nice. So if it rains, we don't care. If it gets dark on us, we don't care because we got lights. So it's going to be great. So if you haven't signed up for that and you'd like to, or you'd just like to inquire about it, you can go to bakersgreenacres.com and look around. You'll see it. It's probably the biggest class that we do. Okay, so that's coming up. All right, I wanted to talk about strength in numbers. That was how we titled this tonight. And I am talking about, I'm referring to the tribe, right? So we call this the Anyone Can Farm experience. So there's undertones in that that title. All right. Anyone Can Farm originated about 15 years ago, and we were in a lawsuit with several entities from the state of Michigan. Okay. And during the time we were in that lawsuit with the state of Michigan, we found out what their Department of Agriculture, actually, what their agenda was they wanted to put all farms under, right? So they wanted to have the way it is right now. I don't have any licenses from the state except my driver's license, and that's something that I don't feel like. And I have a fishing license because my son don't have one because he doesn't want to see me lock horns with some conservation officer, and it's not worth it for $15. For licenses on the farm, I had several. Actually give these same like Department of Agriculture. Do what they want. They'll take your license. And if we don't have a license from them, so long as we stay within the law. But there's no law that says that I have to be licensed on a farm or to run a butcher shop or really. And I seriously doubt if I need a license to drive. I know I don't to drive a car. It's just that when you get pulled over, then it gets a little dicey. But if I have never had a license or I've surrendered it, I've made no agreements with them. And so the best they do is haul you into a civil court, right? But anyway, I don't want that. Anyone can farm came from a conversation that we were having around the campfire. It stemmed from some testimony in a civil court from the number 2 guy at the Department of Agriculture, and he trying to say was that farming is a very intricate. People who are trained should be farming. And so he was making the case for state bureaucrats to come and look over our shoulder in the things that we are doing here. Because you never know. You know, you guys aren't smart enough to not eat bats, and you might eat a bat, and before you know it, we got a pandemic going. They actually said things like that. They didn't talk about bats, but they always love to talk about pandemics. And what's the other word they really like? Anyway, it was sort of he didn't present the argument very, very well. And the courtroom was looking around like, you know, some of these guys have been in farming their whole lives. And here you are, some weenie that went through the university for 4 years. And now you work for the Department of Agriculture, managing and policies. I don't know a dang thing about farming, actually. But yet they wanted to have authority over what we do in the private. Right? That was their shtick. They didn't get anywhere with it, and they couldn't get the buy-in from the court. They couldn't get the buy-in from the people. The only buy-in that they got, the only people that bought into it were the bureaucrats that want to expand their power base, right? And they didn't get anywhere with it. And that's a whole concept. So what we did was we said, no, anyone can farm. And it flies in the face of what they wanted was only we can farm. And so you had to be in their club and then you could farm, right? And I don't want to pay to be in their club. I don't want to be in their club. They're weenies. I don't even want to know them. You know, they should be petitioning us for our knowledge and our expertise in what we have discovered, not what they, you know, read in their textbooks. And I'm not saying that the information in their textbooks is not good. It is. They don't share it. They don't share it with us, right? Not like the extension service used to be. What they want to do is mandate it and then ensure that we carry out their orders. That's what they want. Of course, that's what those types always want. Power and money. I think power is the only insatiable thing that there is, right? So anyway, it didn't go anywhere, but out of it was born Anyone Can Farm. And that kind of came from the animated movie Ratatouille, which is a really good movie if you get a chance to watch a movie. A lot of animated movies have excellent messages to them, and that one did. And what it amounted to was there was this real high-end restaurant in Paris, and the guy that was running it when we come on the scene is a little troll-looking guy, and he had taken over from another guy, Chef Gusteau, who was a great big fat jolly guy, and his line that he said to everybody was, anyone can cook, right? Like anyone can farm. But this little fella took it over, and he wanted to start creating things that only he could do in his staff. He wanted to corner it So only he could do it, and it's typical. And so that's where the name came from. Anyone can farm. The Anyone Can Farm experience is uh, the arm of the operation that shares it, right? We want you to see the experience that we have while we're farming. Maybe you'd like this. Maybe you think it's one thing, but here's how it really is. And there's a lot of beauty in this farming world, just like in aviation. There's a lot of beauty, but there's also the industrial, where bottom line is calories out, and that is not so beautiful. It's just not so beautiful. So our way of doing things, I think, is working with nature. It works with the seasons. It works with the flora and the fauna instead of trying to dominate it, because if we work with it, it works in our advantage, and we have very little control over, a chicken's ability to lay an egg. We bed them, we give them food, we make sure they have water and a nice place to stay, but that's it. Everything else that happens is sort of above our pay grade. We just kind of steward it. So that's the type of farming that we do. And it's kind of ironic that the Department of Agriculture does not like our type of farming. They say it's dangerous because we could start a pandemic. As we're done farmers, we don't know anything about pathogens. They love that word, pathogen. So we started the Anyone Can Farm program, and from it came the Anyone Can Farm tribe. So what this radio show is all about, that's what I call it, because I grew up during the time of AM talk radio, right? So I like to call it a radio show. I got, the golden EIB network microphone right here. I used to listen to Rush Limbaugh all the time. I really liked Rush. It was just very entertaining and educational too. I learned a lot about how things work from old Rushbo. Sad day in America when he passed. Really sad day. But that's what this is. This is to pass information. And so the people that come here and listen to this, they are Anyone Can Farm tribe people. So what is the function of the tribe? Okay, so the tribe actually is a Facebook group, just like my paraffin heater group and my Ford 390 engine group. It's a group of people who are all kind of enthusiastic about farming, maybe want to, maybe used to, maybe are, but they are sympathetic to what we do, and they enjoy the information that people put out. It's a place where you can show off what you did, good or bad, and usually it meets somebody where they're at, right? So I try not to put too much on there, because we've been doing this for 20 something years. So we might be at a different level than the guy that's just getting in. And the guy that's just getting in might say, oh boy, I can handle some hens, but gee, I don't know if I could ever butcher one of them. Well, not now, you can't. But as you progress in this, you start saying, I want to do the next thing, and then the next thing, and the next thing. And it isn't as uncomfortable as you might think it would be, as you get there, as you get close to it. And so, like, the next thing for me, like this idea of integrating an airfield and a farm, it sounds kind of crazy, but general aviation started off on pea fields because they're flat. So they would get the harvest off and they would fly off pea fields, hot and dry, or flat and dry. And so it does make sense to bring general aviation back to the farm in my way of thought, way of thinking. I suppose if my previous life was I was a barber, let's say, I got a friend that is a barber, I would set up a barber shop on the farm. I think that'd be a good thing. Really. I really do. I think that you could have a cafe on the farm. Oh, we do have a cafe on the farm, right? And we use it for our classes. We have a nice kitchen out there, nice place to sit. At least it's dry. I wouldn't say it's nice, but it's pretty good. It's the old butcher shop. It's got a floor, and it's okay. It's heatable. We can have 5 or 6 round tables in there, so there's plenty of room for people to sit and take lunch and take dinner and just sit around and chew the fat. It's a good place. Good place to plug in a coffee machine, coffee maker, right? So you wouldn't think a cafe would go with a farm, but it does pretty well. And there was a time when we didn't do classes on the farm. And when we started doing the classes, it was very foreign to us, but we knew that we had people that wanted to learn this. So why not? I mean, it seemed like the thing to do. I had a brief instructor duty when I was in the service, and I actually liked it quite a bit. I liked instructing. But true to my form, I don't really want to do any one thing. I don't. And when I was talking with this guy today at the airport, he said, "Oh yeah, you came here and applied for, or you were inquiring about the job as airport manager, weren't you?" And I said, "Yeah, I was, but I never pulled the trigger on it because I didn't want to just do that. That's." It'd be a cool job if I could do it part-time, but you can't. They need you there full-time to manage the place. And I didn't want to do that. I wanted to have the ability to do a lot of things. Like today, I did some carpentry, I did some plumbing, I fooled around with my heater, I fooled around with the animals, I had to take care of all of them. So I do a lot of things. And when I get done here, I have to go feed the calves, and it'd be about quitting time then. So that's how I want to structure my life. But the tribe, what does the tribe provide us? Okay, I'm going to give you an idea of what it's provided me right now. I'm going to give you real anecdotal. I used to not know what that word means. That's like a story that explains the point I'm trying to get across, right? So anecdotal evidence. Okay, so Saturday, I was doing my usual thing here, and I went down to check on my beef cows, and that means that I drive my motorcycle down that way, and then just there they are. That's it. Uh, Pond full water, lots of grass. They're good. If I see them acting differently, then I'm going to stop and I'm going to get off and see what's going on. But I didn't see anything. Usually I don't. But this day I saw one of them laying down in the shade, and the rest of them weren't. So herd animals, if you have one of them that's doing something that the rest of them aren't, it's a reason to get closer and look. Closer I got, looked like she was sleeping pretty soundly. And then when I got real close, she wasn't sleeping, she was dead. And that's like a plane crash. It comes with the territory. If you're going to raise livestock, occasionally you're going to have a tragedy like a cow or a steer for no reason that you can figure out is dead. And so you look at her for a minute and then you think, okay, what do I do now? The rest of the cows were standing around her. She happens to be a cow that's out with my steers. And the story on her is I was buying steers, and my brother-in-law said, I got this one. It's a heifer, but I'm not going to breed her. So you just take her and feed her out. And so I did. And what happened was the bull we had at the time, Endeavor, he was in with the dairy cows, but he smelled her coming in and he went over the fences, several fences, and got in with her, bred her, and then came back. Right. So we did not know that that happened. We knew that he was in with them, but we did not know that she was bred until she started to show. And to be honest with you, I didn't even notice. I didn't. Jill said she did. I noticed when there was a calf out there, a white-faced calf, looked just like Endeavor. And the calf was probably a week old, way too wild for me to catch to castrate. So he's out there and he's a bull. So anyway, she was one of 2 cows that was out there. And I didn't know what happened to her. Fast forward the tape to Sunday afternoon. Some other tribe members, the Copperhead people, they have sort of a tradition of stopping through here on their way up to the Upper Peninsula, and will campfire or whatever. And usually they got a bunch of kids and we got a bunch of kids, so they get together and they just have a good old time. We sit at the fire and talk. So she had lost a cow, Carrie and Mike. But Carrie's the one that told me about it, and she was quite upset about it. And so I shared with her, well, I just lost a cow too. And she was, oh, I thought, yeah, I'm kind of glad you did, because it makes me feel like, it's a normal thing. And yeah, it's a normal thing. It just happens. And then as the conversation progressed, she talked about some ducks she had lost to what she termed a blue-green algae bloom. And when she said that, I was like, whoa. Because when I was looking at this cow, I noticed the pond had a lot of algae on it. And it was slightly different than what I remember seeing. It happens every year, but this was bluish green. So I thought, ooh. And so I inquired, do you think that could, kill a cow? And they said, yeah, we've read, it certainly can. So by this time, it's probably 10 o'clock at night. The cows are bedded down. Everybody's cow out there. I haven't taken her out yet. I plan to do it Sunday, after the cows are out on the fields. So go for the gate or anything. And we wound up the campfire kind of late, kind of at midnight, and they camped out here for the night over at our campground. And when I finally came in, I was feeling like, wow, I wonder if I'm going to have more dead cows down there tomorrow because of the blue-green algae. And so I started putting together a plan, what I'm going to do. And my plan was I will haul a trough out there, fill it with fresh water, and do as much research as I can, which I did at midnight on blue-green algae. And so then I went to bed, 1 o'clock. Didn't I sleep well? No, I didn't. I would have these dreams that I crested the hill and looked down and all the cows were fine. And then I'd wake up from the dream. And it's night. So I couldn't sleep. So I thought, well, I'm just going to get dressed and go out and just make sure that they're at least all okay. And I came out and I wasn't feeling real good. And I said, you know what? It's not going to make any difference. So I'm just going to go back to bed. And tomorrow I'll get up and I'll do it. So I did. And I didn't sleep good all night. Went down the next morning and I noticed that all of the rest of the cows were acting kind of strange. There was, if I really looked at them, I could sense anxiety. And so I went and got the trough, brought it over to a different location that's far away from the pond, got a hose going in it. I had to clean it out first. So a project, 300-gallon tank, put a valve on it, that shuts off when it is full, and put it in the shade. And then I went and got the cows and I moved them over that direction. And as soon as they saw that trough, they started galloping. And they stood there at that trough and they drank themselves silly. And after they got done drinking, they drank some more, stood around, manured right there. And then they went out on the field and started eating for the day. So the anxiety that I sensed from them, and it wasn't anything that I can really put my finger on. It was just, they were just staring at me, just looking at me, wanting something. They weren't paying attention. And what I deduced from this conversation is that the animals are smart enough to not drink from warm blue-green algae water. They are smart enough. And so they will not drink. And so that was their frustration, was they only want a couple things. They want food, they want water. That's it. That's what they really live for. They don't like petted, they don't like to be talked, they don't like TV, they don't like All in the Family. They just want grass and water, and they weren't getting the water that they wanted. As soon as they started drinking, I started seeing them start to urinate, but not before. I wasn't seeing any of that. I wasn't seeing any manuring. And so I was a little bit concerned that maybe they have been poisoned by this blue-green algae, and now we will see what happens. But there wasn't a lot of fixes once the animal's contaminated. They're either going to live through it or they're not. That's it. Now, why did the cow die? Well, she was nursing a calf. So her body overrode her wants and right to needs. And so she drank a lot of the water. And I surmise that's what killed her, because there was another cow in there that didn't have a calf and she didn't get killed by it. So I don't know for sure, but it fits in with all the research that I've done. So I'm pretty sure. And the cow that died, I rolled her over on the other side. It was the opening day of the youth hunt. So I thought maybe a stray bullet, but no bullet holes on her. But the point is, I would have never have known that. And I would never have put another water trough out there. And those cows eventually would have gotten so thirsty that they would have drank that water, and we would have had a serious problem. So the information that we pass amongst each other in small farms is vital to the operations that we're running. It's vital. Like in this case, had I not had that conversation with other tribe members, I would have not known. I would have just, I mean, I looked at the water and I knew it, like I wouldn't want to drink it, but the cows, it just didn't even register to me that maybe I should do something else. It just didn't. And so I wouldn't have. And would we have, gone all the way till Wednesday until another cow is dead? And then another one. And then I call the vet and he says, hey, the water, you got to, I wouldn't have known. So that is great anecdotal evidence to the power of community, the power of, we're not into, as a group, we're not into Ford trucks necessarily. Well, me and Brian are, but we are into things farming. So when we have guests here that are stopping through camping or whatever, that want to see the farm, they want to talk about farm stuff. And primarily, that's kind of what we did. We talked about milking cows because they milk. They're excited about it. About kids, they have a bunch of kids. We have a bunch of kids. Living on a farm, it's way different than living in town. And so that was the information that got shared. And it turned out to be life-saving. Okay. So I hope that gives you an idea. And that type of thing happens routinely, and maybe not to that extent, not to that extreme extent, but then I made a video yesterday and I said, hey, heads up, everybody in the tribe. So now that tribe has, let's see, I'm going to check because it's been a while since I've looked to see how many people are actually in that tribe. Let's see here. 11.4 thousand members. I thought we had more than that, but that's 11,000 people. 11,400 people. That is a lot of people. And they are all getting that information and other information. So very, very important, because we get stronger the more we know. The more information that we have about what we're doing, the better we're at it. The better we're at it, the less we need, from other sources, and we become stronger, right? There is another aspect to this, and it's really a good aspect, and I can give you some more anecdotal evidence. Today, Aaron stopped by. He does every Tuesday. He lives about an hour from me. He comes and he gets bread for his pigs, and he gets milk for his family. And he brings his little kids along, and they get out and they play with, the swings and the rope swing and the goats and calves, and they love coming here. And it's sort of his day with his boys. He's got a bunch of kids, but the three that he brings with him is I think the oldest boy, Zeke, yeah, and then the two youngest, and they hang out for the day. So it's a very good thing for them. And then we usually have conversations about one thing or another. It can be anything. But today, he was telling me, I'm going to expand my operation, and I'm going to start selling outdoor furnaces. He says, because the guy that makes the brackets for my barns makes them on the side, and I can get them off of them and then resell them to other people that I'm selling barns to. And I said, yeah, I'm thinking about doing something a little different too. And he's like, what? And I said, well, I'm thinking about putting an airfield in. So we get to talking about it. And I said, hey, maybe you would know, what do I need to do to build these hangars? And he was like, that's a little different than what I usually build. I engineer that for you. He's on the eave side, not the peak. So he designed a little different. And I was like, I would have